a boneless cut of steak, about 1 and 2/5 cm thick. For best results, use a thinner cut of steak, so you can cook it thoroughly on each side. Additionally, the steak will taste best if it's fresh, though you can also defrost a frozen steak in the refrigerator prior to frying. If your steak is very wet and moist, pat it dry before you cook it. Some good cuts for frying or pan-searing include ribeye steak, New York strip steak, and filet mignon. 2. Marinate your steak in advance to add additional flavor. Optional. Place your meat in a bag or glass container and cover it in a marinade of your choice. Then, seal up the bag or cover the container and place the steak in the fridge for at least 2 hours. Use about 12 c/120 ml of marinade per 1 lb 450 g of meat. For best results, marinate your steak overnight. If your marinade has acid, alcohol, or salt, don't marinate for more than 4 hours, since these ingredients denature the food. If your marinade has citrus juices like lime or lemon, don't let it sit for more than 2 hours. Acidic marinades can change the color of your meat. 3. Sprinkle 1 tablespoon 14.8 g of kosher salt onto each side of your steak. The salt will bring out the steak's natural flavors and help the steak brown evenly as you cook it. Salt also helps the browning process as you cook the meat. Salt the steak overnight if you have the time and want to maximize your flavor. Salt the steak 40 minutes before you cook it to mildly enhance the flavor. If you are preparing your steaks now, sprinkle salt over them immediately before you cook. This will still enhance the flavor, though the meat may not be as tender as it would be if you let it soak overnight. 4. Let your steak come to room temperature before you cook it. Remove your steak from the fridge about 30-60 minutes before you cook it so the inside will cook consistently and thoroughly. Do this in particular if you have a thick cut of steak. Coat the bottom of cast iron skillet lightly with vegetable oil, then heat for 1 minute. Make sure the vegetable oil covers the entire bottom of the pan in a light, even layer to prevent burning. Use high heat as you heat your oil, and wait until your oil smokes. Cast iron and heavy-duty pans retain heat after you place the steak into the pan, making them great when cooking the steak. You can also use olive oil as a tasty and healthy alternative to vegetable or canola oil. Place the steak onto the center of your pan when the oil smokes. When you notice smoke forming from your oil, your pan is hot enough to sear your steak. Put your steak in the middle of your pan, using your hands or tongs. Cook the steak on one side for 3-6 minutes. The length of time you should cook your steak depends on your preferred temperature and particular cut of steak. On average, each side should brown for about 5 minutes. If you prefer a pinker steak, cook each side for less time. For a more well-done steak, ensure the outside is brown and charred before you flip it. Alternatively, you can flip your steak every 30 seconds or so if you want to cook your steak faster. If you want extra crust, hold a propane torch 6 inches from the meat and run the flame back and forth across the surface of the steak. Use a cooking thermometer to check the temperature of your meat. Place the tip of a cooking thermometer into the center of your steak and wait for the steak to be about 5 degrees away from your desired temperature before removing it from the heat. Use the finger test if you don't have a cooking thermometer. Touch your middle finger to your thumb, then use your dominant hand to poke the fleshy spot underneath your thumb. Then, use the same finger to poke the steak and compare the feeling. If they feel the same, your steak is medium rare. For other temperatures, use the following fingers. Rare, touch your index finger to your thumb. Medium, touch your ring finger to your thumb. Well done, touch your pinky finger to your thumb. Remove the steak from the pan and let It sit for about 5–15 minutes for best results. Letting your steak rest ensures none of the tasty juices will run out when you cut into it. Your steak will also continue to cook slightly during this time. To make sure your steak doesn't cool, cover it with aluminum foil or place it in your oven set to the lowest setting.